Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the vast ocean of sources you've shared with us and distill it into the clearest, most fascinating knowledge possible.
Today, we are undertaking a truly monumental journey.
We really are. We're diving into a detailed scriptural and theological exploration of Jannah, or paradise. We've got a stack of rigorous sources here, focusing not just on the familiar poetic descriptions.
Right, we're going deeper.
We're looking at its physical attributes, its eternal nature, and maybe most importantly, how traditional scholarship addresses and resolves common theological misunderstandings, what are often called shubhات.
That's right. And our goal for you today, the listener, is really to move far beyond the kind of superficial summaries you might hear elsewhere. We are aiming for a foundational, a structural understanding. We want you to grasp the intricate details about Jannah's existing creation, its intense hierarchy, and how its spiritual laws govern its physical and social dynamics.
And we'll be spending a lot of time on how the source material handles these apparent contradictions or objections, won't we?
We will, grounding the whole understanding of celestial rewards in, a clear, decisive theological rationale.
And when we talk about this final abode, the foundational context the sources provide it's absolutely breathtaking.
It is. Jannah is described as the dwelling place planted by God's own hand. A place saturated with his mercy, his honor, and freedom from every imaginable fault and defect.
That part is so critical. The sources say it's free from any flaw and knacks.
Any decrease or deficiency?
Exactly. So it's defined as the greatest success, the Fawz el-Azim.
And the great kingdom, al-Mulk al-Kabir.
When scholars use that kind of language, they're explicitly telling us we're discussing something whose scale, whose quality, and perfection are just entirely incomparable to anything we know in this world.
And to help us immediately grasp that incomparable nature, our sources turn to this dramatic, almost cinematic anecdote from the prophet's tradition. It just completely resets your perception of misery and bliss.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Imagine this. On the day of judgment, the world's most miserable person, among those destined for Jannah, is brought forward.
So this is someone who has lived a lifetime of just suffering, hardship, torment, everything bad you can imagine.
Everything. And they are then dipped momentarily, a single fleeting dip into paradise. And then they're asked, "Son of Adam, did you ever see any misery? Did any hardship ever pass by you?"
And the response is the core of the insight, right?
Precisely. The person replies, "No, by God, my Lord, I never saw any hardship, nor did I ever experience any misery."
Wow. So a lifetime of verifiable, real torment is just instantly, completely erased.
By a single taste of eternal bliss.
That is just astonishing. It doesn't just compensate for their suffering, it retroactively annihilates the memory of it. And the reverse is equally powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely. Then you have the world's most blissful person, someone who lived a life of total luxury, total ease, but is destined for the fire.
Okay.
They're dipped momentarily into hell, and they're asked the reverse question.
And they forget everything.
Instantly forget all the bliss they ever experienced. This whole story establishes the overwhelming, incomparable intensity of the afterlife. It tells you that the physical and psychological standards we use on Earth they dissolve in the face of eternal reality. It's an immediate, total override.
That sets the scale perfectly. And speaking of scale, one detail that really resonates, especially in the context of moral focus, is the approach required to reach this destination. The sources highlight this fundamental asymmetry between the paths to destruction and the path to paradise. It sounds almost like a philosophical map for life.
It is an essential map. You could call it a kind of moral geography. The tradition clarifies that while hell has innumerable paths, the sabul, each one is tempting, it's distracting.
Designed to pull you off course.
Exactly. But Jannah is reached by only one singular focused effort, the straight path. The Sirat Mustaqim.
And the prophet drew this out visually, didn't he, for his companions?
He did. He drew a single straight line in the sand, called it God's path, and then he drew many, many lines branching off to the sides. Each one of those branching paths represents an error, a deviation.
And he added another detail.
Yes. He noted that on every single one of those numerous side paths, there is a devil actively calling people toward it.
That image is so profound, because it explains why life can feel so hard, One focused effort required for success, but a million highly enticing, custom-designed distractions leading to ruin. That clarity leads us right into the fundamental nature of this destination itself. So now that we've established that singular path, Let's get into one of the oldest theological debates regarding the nature of the afterlife. The big question: is Jannah already created and existing, or will it only come into being on Judgment Day?
This was a huge fault line in classical Islamic theology. I mean, a really major point of contention.
Who were the main players in this debate?
Well, on one side, you had groups like the Mu'tazila and the Qadariya. They often favored, let's say, rationalism over a strict textual literalism. And they claim that Jannah and hell would only be created on the day of resurrection.
And what was their reasoning for that? It seemed to fly in the face of a lot of descriptions.
Their argument was purely rationalist, based on a concept of utility. They reasoned that creating these enormous eternal abodes beforehand would be futile. The word they used was abath, because they'd just remain unused and vacant for this immense, unknown period of time.
So it's a very human, almost an engineering-based objection. Like, why build a city if no one is going to live in it for thousands of years? It's inefficient.
Exactly. They felt that creation should only happen when its purpose is immediate. Why waste the effort?
Okay, that's a highly logical objection from a worldly perspective. So how did the majority of scholars, the Sunni consensus, respond to that?
The consensus, which is supported consistently by our sources, affirms the complete opposite. It refutes that rationalist objection decisively.
And what do they affirm?
The consensus holds that Jannah and hell are already created and existing now. The Arabic phrase is maklubatan majudatan alan.
They exist at this very moment.
Yes. And the response to the futility argument is that God's actions are never futile. If he created them, he had a purpose, even if that purpose is for them to stand ready as a promise, to motivate the righteous and warn the disobedient.
So what are the textual proofs? What did they use to settle that debate so decisively?
The evidence is twofold, and it's considered definitive. First, the Quran itself uses very clear past tense descriptions. It states that Jannah was prepared for the righteous, iwadat lil mutakin.
Iwadat, past tense. It has been prepared.
Exactly. The use of the past tense implies completion and current existence. It's not will be prepared. It was prepared.
Okay, that's strong. What's the second piece of evidence? You said it was even more definitive.
It is. It's the historical account of the Prophet's heavenly ascension, the Isra and Miraj.
The night journey.
The night journey. During this event, the Prophet himself reported seeing Jannah al-Mawa, the Garden of Refuge, and he described its location right next to the lot tree of the utmost boundary, the Sidrat al-Muntaha.
And you can't see something that doesn't exist.
Precisely. It is impossible for the Prophet to have physically seen and described a place that was not yet created. The text confirms its current, present reality.
That settles the reality of the destination, then. So moving from its reality to how you actually get in, we hit what the sources call Shubha 4. This is probably the most fundamental question people ask when they're striving in this life. Is entry to Jannah strictly by one's deeds, or is it solely by God's favor, his fadl?
This is such a critical point, and the resolution, which is so beautifully integrated and balanced in the sources, confirms that entry is fundamentally at its core by God's grace and mercy, by his Rama.
You can't earn it.
You cannot earn it outright. This is confirmed by that very famous hadith where the Prophet stated, "No one enters paradise by his deeds alone."
And he included himself.
Yes, not even I, unless God covers him with his mercy.
But wait, that seems like a paradox, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Quran is constantly commanding righteous action. It's presented as a necessary prerequisite. So if the reward is unearned, what's the primary function of the deed? Is it just a filter, or does it hold intrinsic value?
That's the critical point of theological synthesis. The deed absolutely holds intrinsic value, but it is not the price of entry, because the price is infinite. It's too high to pay.
So how do the sources resolve that paradox?
They resolve it by defining the role of deeds as the cause, the sabab, that leads to God granting that entry. The theological rationale here is really deep. It's that human worship, even a lifetime of perfect dedication, could never fully repay the sheer volume of God's blessings given freely in this life.
You mean like the basics?
Just the basics. Consider the gift of intellect, the ability to see, the act of a single breath. How could any lifetime of prayer possibly repay that volume? It can't.
So the entrance itself has to be a gift.
It must be an act of infinite generosity. But, and this is the key, the quality and consistency of your deeds act as the qualification. They are the necessary criteria to be considered fit to receive that generosity.
So it's a mechanism of deserving the mercy rather than earning the reward itself.
Exactly. The deeds are the spiritual fitness test for receiving the Rama.
That makes perfect sense. Now, what about believers who well, who weren't perfect? What happens to those who committed sins, maybe even grievous ones, but they still held firm to their faith? The Asat al-Mu'minin. Our sources dedicate significant detail to their purification process.
Yes, these individuals, they're sometimes affectionately referred to as the Jahannamiyun.
Which means the people of hell.
It does, but with the understanding that they are later rescued, they are not eternally damned because that spiritual marker of their core belief remains. So they enter the fire to be purified of their sins.
And this process is intense.
Extremely. They are, as the sources describe it, killed by the fire, reduced to charcoal. But then, intercession shafa is permitted for them. The prophets, the righteous, the angels, they can intercede.
And what happens then?
They are gathered up. The sources use this very specific image of them being collected in bundles, dabar air, and then they are washed in the river of life, the Nar al-Hayat.
And the imagery there is one of total spiritual and physical renewal, isn't it?
It is. The prophet described them sprouting forth from this river like seeds or tender vegetables that are carried and deposited by floodwater. They grow back fully, completely made new.
But there's a profound detail here about what identifies them as believers in the first place, even after being reduced to cinders.
Yes. What is that indelible marker?
It's the physical trace of their devotion.
Exactly. The sources confirm that the fire is forbidden by God from consuming the traces of prostration, the athar as-sujud.
The parts of the body that touch the ground during prayer.
The forehead, the nose, the hands, the knees, the feet. That mark of humility and worship remains untouched by the flames. It serves as the ultimate, undeniable evidence of their belief, which permits their eventual purification and entry.
That focus on humility as the absolute, non-negotiable spiritual marker is what truly elevates that image. It's not about how much you knew, but how much you submitted.
Precisely.
So once they're purified, they approach the gates. We know Jannah has 8 gates, and our sources give us specifics about their purpose and their incredible scale.
Indeed, the gates are tailored to the residents and their primary spiritual focus. There are 8 of them, and they include that special, well-known gate called Al-Rayyan,
Which is for the fasting.
reserved exclusively for those who were diligent and consistent in fasting. But the tradition clarifies that people will be called from the specific gate that corresponds to their dominant good deeds. So there's a gate of prayer, the gate of jihad, the gate of charity, sadaqah, and so on.
And that leads to the famous story of Abu Bakr asking if one person could be called from all of them. It suggests that while specialization is honored, comprehensive dedication is the ultimate goal.
Exactly. Abu Bakr asked precisely that question, and it really demonstrates his desire for ultimate perfection. And the Prophet replied, "Yes, and I hope you will be one of them." It shows that perfect dedication across all forms of worship earns the highest honor. You get a welcome from every single portal.
Let's talk about the sheer physical scale of these gates. The sources use these vivid regional comparisons to illustrate just how vast they are.
The scale is immense. It really challenges our ability to visualize it. The distance between the 2 door panels, the Mizrain, is described as being equal to the distance between Mecca and various distant cities.
Like where?
Like Himyar in Yemen, or Busra in Syria, or Hajar, all very, very long distances. Another tradition even suggests a distance equivalent to 40 years of travel.
Okay, that disparity in measurement Mecca to a city versus 40 years of travel is quite dramatic. How do scholars reconcile something like that?
They suggest a couple of resolutions. First, the disparity itself is the point. It's meant to confirm the immense scale. Both descriptions are intended to convey a vastness that is beyond our earthly comprehension.
So don't get hung up on the exact mileage.
Right. And second, and maybe more subtly, since we know Jannah is stratified into degrees and varied in size, it's perfectly logical that the corresponding gates are also scaled differently. The highest gardens, reserved for the most honored dwellers, would logically have the widest, grandest gates.
That makes sense. And unlike the gates of hell, which are sealed, shut musada over its dwellers, Jannah's gates remain perpetually open. Our sources explain that's highly symbolic.
It is. The perpetually open doors symbolize several things that are central to the nature of the abode of peace. First, they signify eternal security. There's no need to lock anything up when there's no theft, no fear, no external threat. Total safety. And second, and this is profound, they signal constant ingress and egress. It indicates the dweller's total freedom of movement and the continuous influx of blessings and angels bearing gifts and honors from the Lord without any interruption. It signifies accessibility and an unconditional, permanent welcome. And knowing the sheer scale of those gates, host, it only prepares us for the structural scale that's inside, because jhana isn't some single open field. It's organized rigorously by effort and achievement.
Right.
The source material is unequivocal. Jhana is stratified into degrees, or darajat, based on the residents' faith, their knowledge, and their righteous deeds, things like memorizing the Quran or participation in jihad.
And the sources explicitly state that this stratification is greater than the differences we see in the world, which is a significant point. But this hierarchy, it brings up a crucial and common objection, Shubha 3, the distance doubt. If the distance between the 100 degrees reserved for the mujahideen, those who strive in God's path, is like the distance between the sky and the earth, or the measurement is 100 years of travel, does that imply that the dwellers are physically isolated or cut off from their family and friends who are in lower ranks?
That is indeed the logical objection. It's raised by people who mistakenly project earthly physics and earthly constraints like time and distance onto the afterlife. Our sources offer 3 comprehensive rebuttals to completely negate this idea of spiritual isolation.
Okay, let's unpack those rebuttals. Let's start with the nature of movement itself.
First, in jhana, physical constraints are entirely removed. There is no waiting, no traffic, no physical exertion. Travel and the attainment of whatever one desires are achieved instantly, often with the speed of thought.
So it's not like you have to book a flight.
Not at all. The sources refer to this through the divine mechanism of kun fa yakun be, and it is. When a dweller thinks of visiting someone 1,000 miles away, they are instantly there. The separation that's described is one of rank and honor, not of physical limitation.
So the distance is a measure of elevation, a measure of status, not a barrier. But what about sustained interaction? Are there, community events?
That brings us to the second rebuttal. The dwellers are not isolated. They actively visit and interact with each other in scheduled settings. The sources describe a weekly market, a souk, where they gather.
Not a market for buying and selling, I assume.
No, not for commerce. It's for communion and for increase. They gather, angels attend to them, and in this gathering they increase in beauty and perfection, and then they return to their families even more beautiful than when they left. This communal gathering definitively refutes any idea of isolation.
And the third point seems to be about the sheer justice of the whole system.
Precisely. The third rebuttal uses an analogy from this world. The separation is one of rank and honor, established purely out of divine justice based on effort. It would be fundamentally unjust to treat those who strove for 100 degrees of honor, spending their entire lives seeking excellence, the same as those who achieve the lowest rank.
It would negate the effort.
It would. It's like the necessary hierarchy in a company. The director and the entry-level worker are both employed, but their positions and their privileges differ based on their contributions and responsibilities. The distances are there to make the ranking clear, but the freedom of movement makes those distances completely irrelevant for visitation.
That resolves the spatial and relational concerns beautifully. Speaking of high rank, let's discuss Shubha 5, which is about the highest level of Jannah, al-Firdaus. The sources discuss the linguistic origin of the word, but its location is what's truly fascinating.
Yes, the word Firdaus itself, which just means a richly endowed garden, has been adopted into this sacred lexicon. But the crucial detail is its location, which presents an apparent geographic paradox. It is defined simultaneously as the highest, Allah, and the middle, Awsat, of Jannah.
How can it be both? How can something be at the very top and in the very center at the same time?
This is resolved by clarifying the nature of centrality. Highest refers to its rank, its prestige. The term middle refers to its structural position in the cosmos. It is located directly under the throne of the All-Merciful, the Arsh Ar-Rahman.
Okay. So it's structurally central to the entire celestial creation, being under the ultimate seat of power, but it's positionally highest in terms of rank and privilege among the dwellers of paradise.
Absolutely. And the structural significance is vital because the sources confirm that from this central location, from the Firdaus, the 4 major rivers of Jannah burst forth Tapajar. It is the source, the zenith, and the heart of paradise.
Let's move to the physical reality of Jannah. Our sources describe the architecture using materials that just completely dwarf any earthly treasure. What are the literal building blocks of this celestial abode?
The descriptions are designed to overwhelm the imagination. The walls and the structures are constructed with bricks of pure silver and bricks of pure gold, alternating in layers. And the mortar used to hold these magnificent blocks together is not cement, but highly fragrant musk, specifically the finest musk known as aldfar.
So it's not just structurally sound, The entire kingdom is perpetually perfumed. I mean, can you imagine walking into a place where the construction materials themselves are the definition of luxury fragrance?
It's sensory saturation, and even the smallest elements are precious beyond belief. The gravel or the pebbles, the hasba that cover the ground where we would expect to see dirt or stones.
It's pearls and rubies.
Loose pearls and rubies, and the soil itself, the turab, is saffron, or a mixture of saffron and musk.
I recall the sources suggested a few ways to reconcile the different descriptions of the soil. Sometimes it says saffron, sometimes musk, sometimes a white pure flower, dharmaka.
Yes, the scholarly consensus harmonizes these descriptions to emphasize purity and scent. The soil might intrinsically contain both musk and saffron, or the land could be white, like dharmaka, and the pure water of jhana moistens it, which then transforms that white soil into the powerful, lasting scent of musk.
So no matter how you look at it,
Every physical element is utterly refined, purified, and precious. It all reflects that core concept of the absence of knack, of any deficiency.
and the places they dwell are not just houses, they are palaces and tents of an inconceivable scale.
We hear of the guraf, the multi-story dwellings for the righteous guraf min fakia guraf mabniya, or rooms built upon rooms. But perhaps the most difficult architectural detail to comprehend is the massive hollow pearl tent, the pima min lulua mujawafa.
A tent made from a single hollowed-out pearl.
Yes, and this single structure is 60 miles wide in every direction.
60 miles. That is the size of a small country contained within one dwelling.
And inside this singular, massive structure, the believer has a family, meaning multiple wives, servants, children, in every single corner of this massive space. Yet, and this is the key detail, they are situated in such a way that none see the others unless they desire it. This scale is a testament to the sheer magnitude of the kingdom granted to even a single individual, and the ability of the afterlife physics to maintain perfect privacy and limitless expansion of the senses.
Moving now to the experience within jhana, let's talk about the constant, perfect pleasures of consumption. We have eternal sustenance that flows in 4 distinct, perfect rivers.
Yes, the description of the rivers is sensory and experiential perfection. It's all about eliminating the flaws that are inherent in their worldly counterparts.
So you have rivers of water.
That never grow stale, Eisen. You have rivers of milk whose taste never turns sour or changes.
And the wine.
Rivers of wine that are delightful to drink, but crucially non-intoxicating, la yazdan, which means no headaches, no hangovers, no loss of control. And finally, rivers of pure, filtered honey.
And we also learn about a specific river, Al-Kathar.
Yes, which is described as having banks of hollowed pearl and soil made of the finest musk.
The first meal is always a point of discussion in the sources. What is the feast that's offered to the dwellers as their welcoming meal, their nuzul?
This initial provision is massive. It's meant to symbolize the immediate, limitless nature of their sustenance from the very first moment. The very first food served is the ziyada kabid al-hut,
Which is?
described as the liver appendage or the extra lobe of the great fish or whale of creation.
The cosmic level meal.
Absolutely. And following this, the great ox of jhana, which grazed on its edges, is ceremonially slaughtered and served as a secondary feast. It's a deliberate provision of cosmic proportions to welcome the residents and confirm their transition to eternal life.
Now here is where we tackle a core theological objection, Shubha 6, the resolution of waste. If dwellers are constantly eating and drinking from these perfect rivers for eternal pleasure, doesn't that imply the necessity of bodily functions, of waste, excrement, what you might call dirtiness?
This objection is based on a false premise. It's projecting the limitations of worldly, impure physiology onto a new, spiritualized body. The sources are absolutely explicit on this point. Jhana is free from afa and naks.
No flaws, no deficiencies.
Therefore, there is no spitting, no blowing the nose. The term is yamtak tun, no urination and no defecation. Such impurities are completely incompatible with the abode of peace.
So if the body is constantly consuming for pleasure, talatud serve, where does the metabolism go? How is all that material accounted for?
The key is that the food is consumed purely for pleasure, not out of hunger or any necessity. The body, having undergone a new creation, an insha akatar, is perfectly efficient.
100% absorption.
It absorbs the nourishment at a healthy, perfect 100%.
Yeah.
Any residual matter is so minimal and so pure that it's expelled through one of 2 ways, either a light sweat or an eructation, a jusha warash.
And both of these smell.
Intensely of the finest musk.
That completely transforms the idea of waste into perfume. But how does this transformation happen? What makes it possible?
The source offers a logical defense based on the idea of purity. The ultimate purifying agent is the sharaban tahura, or the purifying drink, which is given at the end of the meal.
So after they've eaten.
After the body has taken all the pure nourishment it needs, this cleansing drink ensures the body is fully clean. It's what causes the body to expel that residual pure matter through the musk-scented sweat.
The sources make an analogy here, don't they?
They do. The source posits that just as some animal waste products on Earth like musk itself or honey from a bee are highly pleasurable and desirable, the waste of jhana's pure consumption is likewise refined, pleasant, and utterly pure.
It sounds like the final stage of spiritual and physical totality of cleansing. Not just removing physical residue, but ensuring no trace of imperfection remains.
Exactly. That new creation, the insha akhar, makes the body capable of handling this pure nourishment without any of the impurities we associate with worldly digestion.
This new physical reality also guarantees an immediate sense of belonging and recognition, which must be a wonderful final conclusion to the process of entry.
It is the ultimate climax of the journey into paradise. The sources cite the verse, and enter them into paradise, which he has made known to them, arafa lahum.
And how is that interpreted?
The scholarly interpretation is powerful. It means the believer is guided to their specific dwelling place in jhana with an instinct that is better and more certain than how they were guided to their own house in the world.
So no getting lost, no asking for directions.
None at all.
Right.
This happens immediately after their final purification on a bridge between hell and paradise, ensuring they are utterly cleansed, spiritually fit, and ready to instantly recognize their eternal home without any confusion or delay. And the source material also dedicates significant space to addressing misconceptions regarding social and gender dynamics in jhana, particularly concerning companionship and service. These are sensitive areas often subjected to misinterpretation.
Let's start with a highly sensitive misconception, Shubha 8, which concerns the male servants, the Wildan Mukhalladun, or the immortal youths. The sources indicate some skeptics try to link the description of these beautiful servants to acts of impurity.
This objection fundamentally misunderstands the context and, crucially, the pristine nature of jhana. The Wildan are strictly and solely servants.
Function over form.
Precisely. They are described aesthetically as scattered pearls, which signifies their beauty, their purity, and their widespread availability for service. But crucially, the verses immediately clarify their function. Their role is to circulate among the believers with cups and ewers, akwab, and abarik of drink. Their description emphasizes their idealized status as celestial staff, perfectly suited for the honor of service.
And the theological refutation of any impure interpretation must be absolute, given the nature of jhana.
Absolutely. The source firmly refutes any possibility of impure, prohibited acts in jhana. It underscores that jhana is free of all defects, all knacks, and that perverse acts, like those condemned by the prophet as crimes against God and nature, are entirely incompatible with the absolute purity of that abode.
So the beauty of the Wildan is part of the aesthetic of the reward, not a temptation.
Exactly. It serves to enhance the pleasure of being served, not to tempt the dwellers into sin. Furthermore, the source clarifies that the magnificent silk and brocade clothing mentioned in related passages apply to the obrar, the righteous dwellers who are being served, not the servants themselves. This confirms their primary and sole role is service.
Moving to women, Shubha 9 and 10 address the explicit promises of hers, wives for men, and the corresponding question. What is the reward for women, since the description of companionship seems heavily tailored to men?
Right. We must first address the explicit male reward as detailed in the sources. Men are promised a considerable increase in sexual appetite and power, often described as the strength of 100 men.
And they are promised wives.
Multiple wives, at least 2 hers, plus their believing wives from this world, with potentially more promised to martyrs, like the number 72. And this enjoyment is pure. It's free from any of the worldly negatives. No fatigue, no frustration, and critically, no subsequent waste products, as we just discussed.
But the explicit reward language certainly seems designed to motivate men specifically. What is the theological rationale given in our sources for this discrepancy in advertised rewards for women? It's a point of contention for many modern listeners.
The scholars present 2 main reasons to explain this focus, while at the same time ensuring there is parity of reward. First is the concept of haya, or modesty,
A quality praised in women.
an inherent praised quality of women. The scholars argue it would be inappropriate, or contrary to their essential nature, to advertise sexual rewards as a core motivational factor for them to strive for jhana. To be coy about these matters is considered part of their celestial character.
Okay, what's the second reason?
Second, women are seen as being inherently attracted to fine clothing, ornamentation, and jewels, the concept of hilia, which is why descriptions of gold bracelets, silk garments, and beautiful jewelry are frequently mentioned as a reward for both genders equally. This satisfies a core female desire openly and without reserve.
That redirects the focus to the universal elements of beauty and luxury while maintaining modesty. But this leads to the practical question of marital status. What happens to a woman in Jannah? Does she get to choose who she is with if she had multiple husbands on earth or if she was single?
The sources outline 6 potential scenarios for women based on their earthly marital history, and the goal is to ensure every righteous woman finds perfect joy and companionship.
Okay, let's go through those 6 scenarios carefully.
Scenario 1, if a woman dies unmarried. Scenario 2, she dies divorced. Or Scenario 3, her husband is in hell. In all of these cases, God marries her to a single man from this world who entered Jannah.
And why is that?
Because the tradition states there are no bachelors, no azib in Jannah. Everyone has a spouse.
Okay, what's Scenario 4?
If she dies married to a believing man, she is with him, provided he also enters Jannah. That's the most straightforward case.
And what about the more complex situations, Scenarios 5 and 6?
This is where it gets most debated. What if she was widowed and remarried multiple times on Earth? Here, the sources present differing scholarly opinions based on different textual interpretations.
What's one opinion?
Some suggest she is given a choice among her husbands, which speaks to the fulfillment of her ultimate desires. She gets to pick.
And another.
Others suggest she is with the man who had the best conduct and character towards her Asan Kulukwan. This would be a reward for her patience and a reflection of divine justice.
So which position is most strongly supported by the textual evidence in our source material?
The most supported opinion, according to our source material and many scholars, is that she is with her last husband, the man she died while married to or died after him without remarrying. This position emphasizes the continuity of the marital covenant at the time of death.
So there are a few possibilities.
Yes, but regardless of the precise mechanism, whether it's choice, merit, or finality, the ultimate goal is the same. The woman will receive companionship that brings her ultimate and perpetual joy, ensuring she lacks for absolutely nothing.
So regardless of the specifics, the central promise remains universal. No one is disappointed.
Precisely. The core theological principle overrides any perceived imbalance in the descriptions. Jannah is not exclusive to any gender. The promise is clear. Whoever does righteous deeds, whether male or female, while being a believer, those will enter Jannah. Everyone, male or female, will ultimately receive what brings them the absolute ultimate joy, fulfilling that encompassing verse. In it is whatever the soul's desire and what the eyes find delightful. Total, personalized satisfaction.
We've covered the physical aspects, the social dynamics, and the incredible material rewards, the golden bricks, the musk, the pure rivers.
Yeah.
But the pinnacle of existence in Jannah, the highest form of success, is not a physical pleasure at all. It transcends all of this.
Absolutely. All the delights we've discussed, the architecture, the rivers, the companionship, the pure food, they satisfy the body and the ego, but they pale in comparison to the single greatest reward.
Which is?
The vision, Nazar of the Lord.
This ultimate attainment is often interpreted from the Quranic concept of ziyada, or the increase. Tell us about that interpretation.
Yes. The verse promises those who did good, al-husna, the increase, ziyada. This increase has been consistently interpreted by the Prophet and his companions as the vision of God.
And the logic behind that?
The interpretation is fundamentally logical because every physical pleasure in Jannah is already perfect and complete. So the only thing that can constitute an increase beyond perfection is a transcendent spiritual reward, the ability to see the Creator.
And this is the reward that, when it's granted, it causes the dwellers of Jannah to forget all the other existing pleasures.
Exactly, which confirms its supreme status.
That addresses the inherent hierarchy of pleasure, doesn't it? Physical rewards satisfy the body, but the ultimate reward addresses the soul's direct relationship with the Creator. How is this sight described? Is it an abstract, spiritual knowing or a clear vision?
The tradition is clear. It is a sight of utter clarity and unmistakable presence. The Prophet explained that the believers will see their Lord clearly, just as one sees the full moon Layla al-Badran, a clear night.
Or the sun without clouds.
Or the sun without any obscuring clouds. It is not an abstract concept. It is a clear, physical, and immediate witnessing of the Creator's glory. It is the most beloved and honored gift bestowed upon the dwellers.
Finally, we conclude with the most comforting aspect of Jannah, its immortality and permanence. Abadiyat. This is the guarantee that none of these blessings will ever fade.
Jannah is eternal. It will never fade or perish, latafnan wa latabidan. The sources lay out 3 definitive signs of this permanence.
What are they?
First, the dweller's youth will never fade. They will remain at a perpetual age of perfection, usually described as 33. Second, their clothes will never wear out or become old. And third, and most profoundly, the ultimate fear that governs all of earthly life, death, will be completely and publicly eliminated.
And this leads us to that famous, powerful image used to symbolize the finality of existence for both Jannah and hell.
The sources describe the moment when death itself is brought forth on the Day of Judgment. It is presented in the form of a physical entity.
Ram.
Specifically, a piebald ram, a kapshamla. This ram is placed symbolically between Jannah and hell, where both parties, the blissful and the damned, can witness what's about to happen.
That must be an incredibly dramatic, silent moment, all of creation watching.
It is the ultimate punctuation mark. The ram, representing death, is then publicly slaughtered by an angel. And this is followed by a declaration that rings out over all creation. O people of Jannah, immortality and no death. O people of hell, immortality and no death.
Wow.
This act confirms that the dwellers will never face loss, decrease, or the end of their blessings. It guarantees the state of absolute eternal permanence.
What an expansive and complex journey that was. Through the realities of Jannah, we began with its existing creation and that singular focused path required to reach it. We navigated its intricate just stratification, detailing the instantaneous nature of travel that negates isolation. And we explored its non-physical metabolism, where consumption results only in fragrant perfume.
We also addressed social misconceptions, didn't we? Regarding the purpose of the pure servants and confirming the parity of reward for women.
Before ultimately arriving at that spiritual pinnacle, the clearest vision of the Creator.
And if we connect this vast, detailed knowledge back to your experience, the listener, the core message becomes actionable and profoundly motivational. The sheer physical distances described between the degrees, like the sky and the earth, they aren't there to make you feel isolated. They're meant to underscore a necessary truth. Effort determines rank.
The difference in effort required to move from the lowest rank to the highest is exponential.
But the reward increases exponentially as well.
It's a powerful call to sustained action in this short life. The scale is just impossible to ignore.
Indeed. And consider this as a final thought for you to take away. Even the person of the lowest rank in Jannah is granted a realm 10 times the size of the entire world and everything in it. They lack nothing.
An unimaginable kingdom.
And yet the reward for the highest rank is the vision of the Creator, a pleasure that makes all those physical rewards fade into insignificance. So the final question is, what must the pursuit of that highest rank, al-Firdaus al-Ala, necessitate in terms of continuous sustained effort and dedication in this short, finite life? Think about that scale and let it redefine your priorities and your commitments starting today.
आज हम एक ऐसे मौजू की गहराई में उतर रहे हैं जिसका तसव्वुर हम सबके जहन में है, जन्नत।
जी।
लेकिन क्या ये तसव्वुर वाज़े है? हमारे पास जो ज़राए हैं वो इस्लामी मतून के इक्तबासात हैं जो इसकी हकीकत, वहाँ की ज़िंदगी और कुछ ऐसे सवालात का जायज़ा लेते हैं जो अक्सर जहनों में आते हैं।
और ये वाकई एक सफ़र है क्योंकि जन्नत का तसव्वुर हमें दुनिया की महदूद सोच से बाहर निकलने पर मजबूर करता है।
बिल्कुल। तो आइए इस सफ़र का आगाज़ करते हैं। सबसे पहले बुनियादी सवाल से शुरू करते हैं, क्या जन्नत इस वक्त कहीं मौजूद है, एक हकीकी जगह की तरह? या ये सिर्फ एक रूहानी कैफियत या एक इस्तिआरा है जो क़यामत के बाद हकीकत बनेगा?
ये एक बेहतरीन नुक्ता आगाज़ है और ज़राए के मुताबिक जुमूर उलमा और अहले सुन्नत का अकीदा यही है कि जन्नत और दोज़ख दोनों पैदा की जा चुकी हैं।
अच्छा, मतलब वो अभी मौजूद है?
जी, वो उसी वक्त मौजूद हैं। इसकी सबसे बड़ी दलील पैगंबर इस्लाम के महराज के वाक़े को माना जाता है।
महराज का वाक़या जहां उन्होंने अपनी आंखों से जन्नत का मुशाहिदा किया था।
बिल्कुल, उन्होंने इसे अपनी आंखों से देखा था। अलबत्ता एक मुख्तलिफ नुक्ता नज़र भी तारीख में मौजूद रहा है, ख़ासतौर पर मुतज़िला का।
अच्छा, मुतज़िला का नज़रिया क्या था और वो इस नतीजे पर क्यों पहुंचे?
देखिए, मुतज़िला अक़ली दलाइल पर ज़्यादा जोर देते थे। उनके नज़दीक किसी चीज़ को उसके वक्त से पहले बेमकसद पैदा करना अल्लाह की हिकमत के खिलाफ था।
यानी उनका कहना था कि अगर जज़ा क़यामत के दिन मिलनी है तो उसे अरबों साल पहले बनाने का क्या फ़ायदा?
जी बिल्कुल, यही कि उसे पहले बनाकर खाली रखना एक बेफ़ायदा काम लगता है। لیکن جمہور علماء اس کے جواب میں کہتے ہیں کہ ہماری عقل اللہ کی حکمت کا احاطہ نہیں کر سکتی،
صحیح۔
اور جب قرآن و حدیث میں واضح اشارے موجود ہیں تو ہمیں نصوص کو ترجیح دینی چاہیے۔
یعنی یہ بحث دراصل وحی اور عقل کی ترجیح کی ہے۔ بہت خوب۔ تو اگر ہم اس بات کو مان لیں کہ یہ ایک حقیقی موجودہ جگہ ہے تو اگلا سوال یہ ہے کہ یہ دکھتی کیسی ہے؟ ذرائع میں محلات، باغات، سونے چاندی کا ذکر ہے۔
یہی پر سب سے دلچسپ اور گہری بات سامنے آتی ہے۔ ان تمام تفصیلات سے پہلے ایک حدیث قدسی کو سمجھنا ضروری ہے،
جی؟
جس میں اللہ تعالیٰ فرماتا ہے کہ میں نے اپنے نیک بندوں کے لیے وہ کچھ تیار کیا ہے جو نہ کسی آنکھ نے دیکھا، نہ کسی کان نے سنا، اور نہ ہی کسی انسان کے دل میں اس کا خیال گزرا۔
ایک منٹ، اگر اس کا خیال بھی دل میں نہیں آ سکتا تو پھر یہ سونے، چاندی، دودھ اور شہد کی تفصیلات کیوں دی گئی ہیں؟ یہ تو ہمارے دل اور دماغ میں آنے والے خیالات ہی ہیں۔
بہترین سوال، یہی تو اس کا کلیدی نقطہ ہے۔ ذرائع ان قیمتی چیزوں کو ایک لسٹ کے طور پر پیش نہیں کر رہے، بلکہ یہ ایک لسانی حکمت عملی ہے۔
اچھا، وہ کیسے؟
یہ ہماری انسانی نفسیات کو مخاطب کرنے کا طریقہ ہے۔ اللہ نے وہ نام اور وہ چیزیں استعمال کی جنہیں انسان دنیا میں سب سے قیمتی اور خوبصورت سمجھتا ہے، تاکہ ہمارے اندر ایک شوق اور ایک ترغیب پیدا ہو۔
مطلب اصل حقیقت ان ناموں کے پیچھے چھپی ہوئی ہے۔
بالکل، اور وہ ہماری سوچ سے کہیں زیادہ عظیم ہے۔ جنت کی مٹی مشک و زعفران کی ہے، کنکر موتی اور یاقوت کے ہیں۔ یہ سب اس کی قدر و قیمت کا احساس دلانے کے لیے ہے۔
تو اس کا مطلب یہ ہوا کہ وہاں شہد نامی ایک مشروب ہوگا، لیکن اس کا ذائقہ، اس کی کیفیت دنیا کے شہد سے بالکل مختلف ہوگی، اتنی کہ ہم اس کا تصور بھی نہیں کر سکتے۔
بالکل درست۔ یہ صرف ایک حوالہ جاتی نقطہ ہے۔ یہ ہماری محدود زبان میں لامحدود حقیقت کو بیان کرنے کی ایک کوشش ہے۔
واہ! تو آئیے اسی نقطے کو آگے بڑھاتے ہیں اور وہاں کی زندگی پر بات کرتے ہیں۔ کھانے پینے کا ذکر بار بار آتا ہے، دودھ، شہد، پانی اور شراب کی نہریں۔
جی۔
لیکن اگر وہاں بھوک اور پیاس کی تکلیف ہی نہیں ہوگی تو پھر کھانے پینے کا مقصد کیا ہے؟ کیا یہ صرف لذت کے لیے ہے؟
جی، یہی وہ بنیادی فرق ہے۔ دنیا میں ہم بقا کے لیے کھاتے پیتے ہیں، بھوک لگتی ہے تو کھاتے ہیں۔ جنت میں بقا کا نظام نہیں، صرف اور صرف لذت کا نظام ہے۔
اچھا؟
آپ اس لیے نہیں کھائیں گے کہ آپ کو ضرورت ہے، بلکہ اس لیے کھائیں گے کہ آپ لطف اندوز ہونا چاہتے ہیں۔ اور اس کی سب سے حیران کن مثال وہاں کے نظام ہضم میں ملتی ہے۔
ہاں، میں اسی طرف آ رہی تھی۔ ذرائع بتاتے ہیں کہ وہاں فضلات کا کوئی تصور نہیں۔ یہ بات تو ہمارے حیاتیاتی قوانین کو ہی چیلنج کرتی ہے۔
بالکل کرتی ہے، اور یہی جنت کو جنت بناتا ہے۔ ذرائع کے مطابق کھانا پینا مشک کی خوشبو والی ڈکار یا خوشبودار پسینے کے ذریعے جسم میں تحلیل ہو جائے گا۔
تو مطلب وہاں کوئی گندگی یا ناپاکی نہیں ہوگی؟
کسی قسم کی نہیں، ہر چیز خالص اور پاکیزہ ہے۔ اس سے یہ کلیدی نقطہ سمجھ میں آتا ہے کہ جنت میں انسانی حیاتیات کے قوانین ہی بدل دیے گئے ہیں۔ جسم کو ایک ایسی کامل حالت میں اپ گریڈ کر دیا گیا ہے جہاں صرف لذت ہے، تکلیف یا ضرورت نہیں۔
یہ تصور کہ وہاں جسمانی آلائشیں نہیں ہوں گی ایک بڑے سوال کو جنم دیتا ہے۔ اگر انسان اتنے پاکیزہ اور کامل ہو جائیں گے تو ان کے آپسی تعلقات کیسے ہوں گے؟ ایک ایسے معاشرے کا تصور کیسا ہے جہاں حسد، بغض یا ناگواری جیسے جذبات ہی نہ ہوں؟
میان زمین و آسمان جتنا فاصلہ ہے۔
اوہ، یہ تو بہت زیادہ فاصلہ ہے۔
جی، تو یہ سن کر پہلا خیال یہی آتا ہے کہ شاید اونچے درجے والے لوگ الگ تھلگ رہیں گے اور ایک طبقاتی نظام ہوگا۔
ہاں، بالکل۔
کیا ایک شخص جو سب سے نچلے درجے پر ہے وہ سب سے اونچے درجے والے سے مل سکے گا؟
جی بالکل مل سکے گا، اور اسی کے لیے جنت کے بازار کا تصور دیا گیا ہے۔
جنت کا بازار؟ یہ کیا ہے؟
ایک حدیث کے مطابق جنتی ہر جمعہ کو ایک بازار میں اکٹھے ہوں گے۔ وہاں ایک خاص ہوا چلے گی جو ان کے حسن و جمال کو اور بڑھا دے گی۔
اچھا۔
جب وہ واپس اپنے گھر والوں کے پاس جائیں گے تو دونوں ایک دوسرے کی خوبصورتی میں اضافہ دیکھ کر خوش ہوں گے۔
تو یہ بازار صرف ملنے جلنے کے لیے ہے یا یہاں کسی قسم کا تبادلہ بھی ہوگا؟ ذرائع اس کی تفصیلات تو نہیں بتاتے، لیکن اس کا مقصد واضح ہے۔ اس کا مقصد سماجی تعلق کو قائم رکھنا ہے۔ یہ اس خیال کی نفی کرتا ہے کہ ہر کوئی بس اپنی نعمتوں میں گم ہو جائے گا۔
صحیح، کیونکہ انسان فطرتاً ایک سماجی مخلوق ہے۔
بالکل، اور جنت میں اس کی اس فطرت کو بھی کامل طریقے سے پورا کیا جائے گا۔ وہاں دلوں سے کینہ اور حسد نکال دیا جائے گا۔ اس لیے جب کوئی اپنے سے اونچے درجے والے کو دیکھے گا تو اس کے دل میں جلن نہیں بلکہ خوشی اور محبت کا احساس پیدا ہوگا۔
تو تعلقات خالصتاً محبت اور خوشی پر مبنی ہوں گے۔
جی،
یہاں سے گفتگو ایک ایسے موڑ پر آتی ہے جہاں کچھ بہت براہ راست اور جدید دور کے سوالات اٹھائے جاتے ہیں۔ ہمارے ذرائع نے ان پر بھی بات کی ہے۔ سب سے عام سوال جنسیت کے بارے میں ہے۔ مردوں سے حوروں کا وعدہ ہے تو عورتوں کے لیے کیا ہے؟ یہ سوال اکثر اٹھایا جاتا ہے۔
جی، اور اس کا جواب بہت حکمت اور نفسیات پر مبنی ہے۔ ذرائع میں اس کی کئی وجوہات بیان کی گئی ہیں۔ پہلی وجہ عورت کی فطری حیا ہے۔
حیا؟
جی، قرآن کا اسلوب یہ ہے کہ وہ انسانی فطرت کا بہت خیال رکھتا ہے۔ چونکہ عورت کی فطرت میں حیا کا عنصر غالب ہے، اس لیے اللہ نے ان سے ایسی خواہشات کا براہ راست ذکر نہیں کیا جو ان کی حیا کے خلاف محسوس ہوں۔
لیکن اس کا مطلب یہ تو نہیں کہ ان کی خواہشات کو نظر انداز کر دیا گیا ہے؟
ہرگز نہیں۔ قرآن کا بنیادی اصول یہ ہے کہ وہاں تمہارے لیے ہر وہ چیز ہے جس کی تمہارے نفس خواہش کریں گے۔ یہ اصول مرد اور عورت دونوں کے لیے برابر ہے۔
تو پھر ان کے لیے کیا انتظام ہوگا؟
ذرائع واضح کرتے ہیں کہ جو عورتیں دنیا میں غیر شادی شدہ تھیں، انہیں جنت میں ان کی پسند کے نیک مردوں سے بیاہا جائے گا۔ کوئی بھی جنت میں تنہا نہیں رہے گا، اور جو شادی شدہ تھیں وہ اپنے نیک شوہروں کے ساتھ ہوں گی۔
لیکن اگر کسی کا شوہر نیک نہیں تھا یا دنیا میں ان کے تعلقات اچھے نہیں تھے؟
اس صورت میں عورت کو اختیار دیا جائے گا اور اللہ ان کے لیے بہتر انتظام فرمائے گا۔ اور اگر شوہر نیک تھا تو اللہ تعالیٰ دنیا کے شوہروں کی تمام خامیوں اور بری عادتوں کو دور کر کے انہیں بھی کامل اور بہترین صفات والا بنا دے گا۔
اچھا، تو مطلب انہیں ایک بہترین ساتھی ملے گا؟
جی، ہر لحاظ سے ان کی آنکھوں کی ٹھنڈک ہوگا۔ خلاصہ یہ ہے کہ حیا کی وجہ سے تفصیل بیان نہیں کی گئی، لیکن انعام میں کوئی کمی نہیں رکھی گئی۔
یہ ایک بہت جامع وضاحت ہے۔ اب ایک اور حساس موضوع کی طرف آتے ہیں، ولدان مخلودون،
جی،
یعنی ہمیشہ ایک ہی عمر میں رہنے والے نوجوان لڑکے۔ کچھ لوگوں نے ان کے کردار کی غلط تشریح کر کے ایک منفی پہلو نکالنے کی کوشش کی ہے۔ ذرائع اس بارے میں کیا کہتے ہیں؟
ذرائع اس معاملے میں بالکل واضح اور دو ٹوک ہیں۔ قرآن میں جہاں بھی ان کا ذکر آیا ہے وہ خدمت گزاری کے سیاق و سباق میں آیا ہے۔
یعنی ان کا کام صرف خدمت کرنا ہے؟
بالکل۔ یطوف علیہم ولدان مخلدون، یعنی ان پر خدمت کے لیے ہمیشہ رہنے والے لڑکے گردش کریں گے، پیالے اور مشروبات لے کر۔ ان کا کردار صرف اور صرف خدمتگاروں کا ہے۔
تو پھر ان کی خوبصورتی کو اتنی وضاحت سے کیوں بیان کیا گیا، جیسے بکھرے ہوئے موتی؟ اس تشبیہ کا کیا مقصد ہے؟
اس تشبیہ کا مقصد جنت کی شان و شوکت اور عظمت کو ظاہر کرنا ہے۔ آپ تصور کریں کہ کسی بادشاہ کے دربار میں خوبصورت اور آراستہ خدمتگار اس کی سلطنت کی شان کو بڑھاتے ہیں۔
صحیح۔
اسی طرح جنت میں خدمت کرنے والے بھی اتنے حسین ہوں گے۔ یہ اس بات کی دلیل ہے کہ جن کی خدمت کی جا رہی ہے ان کا مقام کتنا بلند ہوگا۔ اس میں کوئی جنسی پہلو تلاش کرنا اسلام کی بنیادی تعلیمات کے ہی خلاف ہے۔
کیونکہ اسلام میں ہم جنس پرستی کو ایک سنگین گناہ سمجھا جاتا ہے۔
جی، اور جنت جیسی پاکیزہ ترین جگہ پر کسی گناہ کا تصور بھی محال ہے۔ یہ محض ایک گمراہ کن تشریح ہے۔
یہ وضاحت بہت ضروری تھی۔ اچھا، اسی سے جڑا ایک اور اعتراض، ذرائع میں نکاح اور جسمانی تعلق کا بھی ذکر ملتا ہے۔ کچھ لوگ کہتے ہیں کہ یہ بہت دنیاوی اور شہوانی تفصیلات ہیں۔ ایک روحانی مقام پر ایسی باتوں کا کیا کام؟
یہ سوال آج کے دور کی ذہنیت کو سمجھنے کے لیے بہت اہم ہے۔ اسلام انسان کو روح اور جسم کے مجموعے کے طور پر دیکھتا ہے، وہ ان دونوں کو الگ نہیں کرتا۔ جنت جزا کا گھر ہے۔ جنسی لذت ایک فطری انسانی خواہش ہے جسے اللہ نے خود انسان میں رکھا ہے۔ دنیا میں اس نے اسے حلال طریقے یعنی نکاح کے ذریعے پورا کرنے کی اجازت دی اور اسے ثواب کا کام قرار دیا۔
تو آپ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ جس چیز کو دنیا میں حلال رکھا گیا وہ جنت میں انعام کے طور پر کیوں نہیں مل سکتی؟
بالکل، اور وہ بھی اپنی کامل اور پاکیزہ ترین شکل میں۔ دنیا میں اس لذت کے ساتھ کمزوری، تھکاوٹ اور ناپاکی جڑی ہے۔ جنت میں اسے ان تمام آلائشوں سے پاک کر دیا جائے گا۔
صحیح۔ اور ذرائع میں طاقت کے بارے میں بھی کچھ ذکر ہے؟
جی، ذرائع کے مطابق ایک جنتی کو 100 مردوں کے برابر طاقت دی جائے گی تاکہ وہ ان نعمتوں سے بغیر کسی کمزوری کے پوری طرح لطف اندوز ہو سکے۔
اور بیویوں کی تعداد کے بارے میں جو ذکر ہے؟
جہاں تک تعداد کا ذکر ہے، جیسے کم از کم 2 بیویاں یا شہداء کے لیے بہتر بیویاں، تو یہ سب اعمال کے درجات کے مطابق اللہ کے فضل کا اظہار ہے۔ اور جیسا ہم نے پہلے بات کی، وہاں دل اتنے پاک ہوں گے کہ حسد یا ناگواری کا شائبہ تک نہیں ہوگا۔
تو اگر ہم اس ساری گفتگو کو سمیٹیں تو کلیدی نقطہ کیا نکلتا ہے؟
خلاصہ یہ ہے کہ جنت ایک حقیقی جگہ ہے جو ہمارے تصور سے باہر ہے۔ ہمیں جو تفصیلات دی گئی ہیں وہ استعارے ہیں جو ہمیں اس کی عظمت کا ہلکا سا اندازہ دینے کے لیے ہیں۔
یعنی ایک ایسی جگہ جہاں انسانی وجود کو اپ گریڈ کر دیا جاتا ہے۔
جی، جہاں نہ کوئی جسمانی ناپاکی ہے، نہ کوئی روحانی بیماری جیسے حسد اور بغض۔ یہ ایک ایسا کامل معاشرہ ہے جہاں جسمانی اور روحانی دونوں طرح کی لذتوں کو ان کی پاکیزہ ترین اور بلند ترین شکل میں عطا کیا جائے گا۔
اور ان تمام لذتوں اور نعمتوں کے باوجود ذرائع ہمیں بتاتے ہیں کہ یہ سب کچھ جنت کا سب سے بڑا انعام نہیں ہے۔
جی، اور یہی اس پورے تصور کا عروج ہے۔ ان تمام نعمتوں، محلات، نہروں پر تعلقات سے بڑھ کر ایک انعام ہے، اور وہ ہے اللہ تعالیٰ کا دیدار۔
اس کی کیفیت کیسی بیان کی گئی ہے؟
ایک حدیث میں آتا ہے کہ جب جنتی جنت میں داخل ہو جائیں گے تو اللہ تعالیٰ ان سے پوچھے گا کہ کیا تم کسی اور چیز کی خواہش رکھتے ہو جو میں تمہیں دوں؟
تو وہ کیا کہیں گے؟
وہ عرض کریں گے کہ آپ نے ہمیں ہر نعمت عطا کر دی، ہمیں آنکھ سے بچا لیا، جنت میں داخل کر دیا۔ اس پر اللہ تعالیٰ اپنے اور ان کے درمیان سے حجاب کو ہٹا دے گا۔ حدیث کے الفاظ ہیں کہ جنتیوں کو اللہ کے دیدار سے بڑھ کر کوئی نعمت محبوب اور لذیذ محسوس نہیں ہوگی۔
تو وہ لمحہ ایسا ہوگا کہ باقی تمام نعمتیں اس کے سامنے ہیچ ہو جائیں گی۔
بالکل، وہ لمحہ ہوگا جب جنت کی باقی تمام مادی اور جسمانی نعمتیں اس روحانی لذت کے سامنے ماند پڑ جائیں گی۔ یہی وہ حتمی انعام ہے جس کے لیے ایک مومن کی ساری زندگی کی کوشش ہوتی ہے۔
تو گویا جنت کا سفر جسمانی لذتوں سے شروع ہوتا ہے اور اس کی انتہا ایک ناقابل تصور روحانی تجربے پر ہوتی ہے۔ یہ واقعی ایک گہرا نقطہ ہے۔
جی،
اس موضوع پر مزید تفصیلات کے لیے ڈسکرپشن میں دیے گئے لنک کو ضرور دیکھیں۔